Okay, so I've set up my Google Classroom. I've actually entered a question. I've set up an announcement, and now I want to add my first real assignment where I want my students to type an essay. So I'm going to go back to this little button in the corner, my add an assignment, and this time I'm going to actually call it an assignment. So, and again, I'm making sure it's the right class. It's going to all my students. I'm going to give it a title. I'm going to number it. This would be 002 for me because it's my second assignment. And I'm going to call this description of characters, of main character, which, you know, is something that is pretty typical that I might do in a reading class. And so then I would give some very specific instructions here. I would say the actual writing assignment. I could type it right here. So I could say along the lines of create a description of, I'll say Stanley from Holes, which is a book we're reading, just so that it's not a made-up assignment, using information from the text. So I could go on and be very specific in what I want my students to do when I'm doing the assignment. So that's one way to go about it. And then I could even go on to say to them, create a Google Doc, share it with me, you know, whatever. And this I might do, if I was still teaching in high school, I might do that with my freshmen because I want them to learn how to set up their Google Doc, how to format it, how to make sure that the font's the font that I want it, all those sorts of things. So if you take this approach where in the instructions you tell them to create a doc or a slide deck or whatever it is that you want them to do, then they would be responsible for setting it up. But you also have the option, and this is probably what I like, which is my favorite, I can go into my Drive and attach a doc that I've created. And it tends to always go to my most recently created docs. And so for me, I have this vocabulary assignment I just did recently with my students. So I can take this assignment and I can attach it. So now it's going to add it. So here's the template right here, and it says template for a reason. Because when I assign it, right now it says students can view file, which means that the students could just look at my document. So if you have a resource that you want to attach, and you can do that from your computer file, from your Drive, you could upload a resource video from YouTube, which is similar to, like, I can upload my screencast of what I want them to do, or a link. I could take them to a place, right? So I could upload all of those things, and students, for this particular doc, it says that students can view it. I could also have students can edit the file, which means that all of my students at the same time, if they all open it at the same time, can access the same document. It's kind of crazy. I do have one document that I'm having students do that, and we did it today and it worked out fine. But I give some really specific instructions, and it has a really specific purpose. They need to collaborate. So that's an option. But my favorite option, and almost every assignment I do has this, which is to make a copy for each student. If I click that, when they open it, without them even realizing it or understanding it, it makes a copy for them. So that's why when I went into my Drive just now, if you look, these are actually, and the ones with the pink that you can see here, are each of my students' assignment that they did today. So they got that template, they opened it up, they started filling it out, and the pink is where I've actually graded it and marked things wrong or correct. So you can see here that I have all of these in my Drive. And I didn't put them there. They didn't put them there, but Google Classroom is beautiful and it organizes itself. So if you are attaching something to an assignment, it will, so you can set up a doc exactly the way you want it with the instructions, and then assign it to a student. It will make their own copy, and then they can write on it. So especially for me, because I have younger students, my students are just 5th graders, I actually will select the font and allow them to work. Let me show you an example of that. So this was an assignment we did yesterday, the day before. Let me see here. Let me find it. It's assignment 006. I'm trying to find the one that's not already written on my template, which I could search through templates. I'm kind of doing it, I guess it's not as quick as I thought it was, but the quicker way. So let me just open up this one so you can see it. So this is an assignment I created and attached. And so I actually created an outline for them to fill out, and then they could type in these lines they were supposed to erase and fill in the blanks, and then I asked them to use that information to write paragraphs because I was trying to teach them. And it says, if you notice right here, it says begin typing your paragraphs here. When I type that, that's where I set the font. And I set the size of the font so that they could see it and edit it really well. And so I determined that. So as soon as they hit return, then they began typing in the font that I wanted. And then a couple of my students came back to me and they said that they wanted their font to be a little bit bigger. And I gave them permission to do so. So you'll see here, this is the size I intended it to be, and this is the size that he made his font, which, you know, in this situation, I didn't really care because it wasn't really about length, page length, so it was about structure. So, but it's kind of a good way to control those sorts of things. I mean, obviously a student could come up here and make edits to their own page, but, you know, if you give specific instructions like don't do that, or I'll send, you know, you can return an assignment to them. But it's just a really nice way to kind of control and, in my situation, because I have younger students, begin training them how I want their papers to look or how a typed paper should look. And I got really attached to the idea of I created an outline of how they could begin to think about writing this particular assignment, and then have them translate that outline into actual sentences to see the structure of the essay. So super, super easy to attach things, and then again, you can just assign it. And then when a student goes to work on it, all they have to do is click on it and they can begin working. It's shared between the two of you. They don't have to share it with me, which if you have older students, probably not a problem, but for some of my younger students, it's just easier for them not to have to type my email, and it's already shared between us and we have access to it together. The cool thing about it too is that when they work on an assignment, on the back end, what the student sees is, you know, you have these two buttons here that you always have in Google Docs, which is share and comments. They have a third button right here that says turn in because it's connected to Google Classroom. So as soon as they hit that turn in button, then it shows up in my feed as done, which is great. I mean, I would have loved this, especially when I was teaching high school, because it even records the time that it's turned in. And so, you know, those high schoolers are like, no, I turned it in to you yesterday. You just don't remember. Well, I can see when they turned it in because that information is all digital. So it's really helpful. But you know, you can put whatever you want on this paper. So this was an assignment I did today, which is we're working on their vocabulary words. Not a very exciting assignment, but the cool thing was that I could load in the vocabulary words. I put it in a table for them, and I even included a link to dictionary.com so that they could look it up. So not only can I put links on my page here, but I can also embed a link into a doc, and it's live and it's active. They were hilarious. They thought that they were cheating because they were actually using the link that I gave them to complete the assignment. I'm like, no, I put it there on purpose. So I think that that's a really cool way to do it. So you just click on create an assignment, and then again, you can, it's up to you. If you want them to create their own assignment and set it up in Drive or Slides or whatever, you can have them do that. Or you can upload a template that you want them to use, and you can force a copy into their system so that they're only working on their own copy. Or you can collaborate, which I also use because they do group work as well. So both ways work. and they work really easily. Super, super easy to do. And then as soon as you do that, that next assignment will be at the top of the feed. Notice this one right here says that it's a saved post because I worked on that, but I didn't actually post it. So it's in gray, it's a draft, and I still have access to it. So if you start to work on something and decide, forget this, I'm gonna go have a sandwich or whatever, or a cup of coffee, that's my thing. You don't lose it, it's still there, which is always the beauty of Google Drive, Google Docs. When a student is working on an assignment, they don't have to hit save or any of those things. They hit turn it in, and it's saved, it exists, and they haven't lost anything. So that's how you create an assignment where you're attaching a doc.